Excited to be here today. I am here at Silhouette headquarters, and we are excited to be showing this project with Michaels. My name is Kelly Wayment, and we are going to be doing a sketched card set. So I've got these examples of my finished cards we're going to be doing. We'll use the sketch pens in the, I'm going to use the Silhouette Cameo 4, but sketch pens have been around since the beginning. So whatever machine, whatever Silhouette machine you've got, and actually even whatever software you've got, this should work for you. We'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to list the supplies before we move into the software and get designing. So I'm going to use the Cameo 4. And like I said, you could use any Silhouette machine, but the instructions I'll be giving will be mostly pretty specific at times to the Cameo 4. We'll use the cutting mat that comes with the machine. We will be using, these are a couple of cardstock sets from Michaels that I really like that both have the colors that work for these cards. But of course you could use any color scheme you want. Basically you want kind of a two color set that go together, a light color and a darker color. Okay, so cardstock, we need a paper trimmer, you need some adhesive, we need some rhinestones. These are self-adhesive rhinestones, and you can pick whatever color you like. I went with kind of this blue collection, but the clear works really well. And those are not essential. Those are kind of an optional thing. We'll be using some watercolor pencils, colored pencils. And these are Artist Loft that I got from Michaels, but you could use any watercolor pencils. I just chose some greens and blues. We'll use a water brush, or you can just use a paintbrush and water. For an accent, we'll just use some of this, I'm not sure exactly, it's called craft cord if you're searching on the Michaels website, but it's kind of like embroidery floss, but it doesn't have those 6 strands to divide. It's all basically meant to stay as one piece, but it's just a thin twine. We'll also need, besides regular adhesive, we're going to use some foam dots to give a little bit of dimension. And so I think that's it for materials. We will be using Silhouette sketch pens. So if you're using the Cameo 4, you do need or the Portrait 3, you do need the sketch pen that has a black body style. If you're using an older machine, you could use the sketch pens that have a white body style, but they've all moved to this black. And the reason is this fits in the adapter. And so it's got a little bit of a lip to it that fits into the blue adapter. So if you're using the Portrait 3 or the Cameo 4, you need this blue adapter for your sketch pen. And so you just lift it, open the tab, make sure this groove or the lip of the sketch pen fits into this groove, and snap it shut, and that is ready to be used in the Cameo 4 or the Portrait 3. Now if you've got the older style with a white body and you've got an older machine, a Cameo 3 or older, or Portrait 2 or older, those can all just go straight into the machine without an adapter. You don't need that blue adapter unless you're using a Portrait 3 or a Cameo 4. I'll also mention that if you don't want to use the Silhouette sketch pens, you can use the sketch pen adapter, which basically takes any gel pen or thin Sharpie marker, any pen, a ballpoint pen, and you can use it in this adapter for either machine. So if you have a Cameo 4 or Portrait 3, you use this type B pen holder is what it's called. And it's got the body shape and the automatic tool detection that the Portrait 3 and Cameo 4 use. If you're using an older machine, it's got this round style. This is the pen holder type A, or what used to just be called the pen holder. but I'll show you as we get further on. I'll just show you how to put a regular pen in there. Remind me if I don't get to it and you're interested in that. But let's go ahead and move into the software, and we'll get our design set up so we can go ahead and start sketching and cutting. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. And I'm using Silhouette Studio because I have a Cameo Pro. I'm using the most current version of the software. So I'm using 4.4.463. But like I said, sketch pens have been around for a long time. So you should be able to use whatever software you have been using. And we're going to use the basic edition. There's one thing I will show you that uses Designer Edition Plus or Business Edition. That's just kind of fun, but I'm not going to use it. I'll just show it. Okay, so we're going to start by drawing a rounded rectangle. Actually, first, let's make sure we've got our page set up correct. So page setup panel, we want the machine to show whatever machine you're using. I've got the Cameo 4, so I've got Cameo as my machine. I'm using the Cameo cutting mat, and my media size I've set to letter. And that's going to match the letter size cardstock I'm using. So let's go over here on the left. We're going to pick a rounded rectangle. So if you just hover over here on the left, it'll, or click on it, it'll just give you these options. So choose rounded rectangle and just click and drag on your screen. We're going to make it 4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches high. So if you get in the general vicinity, that's good. And then I'm going to go up to my scale section of my quick access toolbar. Make sure this is not locked. And I want the width to be 4 inches and the height to be 5.25 inches. And you can see that that rectangle adjusted. So here's one thing where it might be fun to have Designer Edition Plus or Business Edition is the Flexi Shape tools. So over here on the left, if you've got those upgraded versions, you can choose a different shape. And I like this frame shape over here. I'll just click on it and show you what you can do with it. I'll draw that same similar rectangle, and let me zoom in just a little bit. So right now it looks the same as my rounded rectangle over here, but if you slide the slider to 2 spots or 3 spots, you can see that these corners change. So I'm going to hold my Shift key and drag these red dots, and you'll see that a little bit larger as I make that corner wider. If you hold your Shift key, then they move at the same time. If you just drag one at a time, then they don't move proportionally. So that's with 2, and that's with, or that was with 3, and that's with 2, and then back to 1 is just a regular rounded rectangle. So that I just wanted to show you real quick as a fun thing you get with the upgrade to Designer Edition Plus or Business Edition. I'll delete that and we'll just move back to the basic edition. So I've got my rounded rectangle and I want 4 copies. We're going to do 4 of these all at the same time. So I'm going to hold my Alt key and click and drag a copy away. That's one way to make a copy. On a Mac, you might be able to use Alt or you might be able to use Option. I can't remember for sure. On Windows, it's Alt. And then another way to make a copy, I've got these 2 selected. I'll hold my Control and just do a down arrow. And if you're using a Mac, that would be Command and down arrow, and that makes a perfect copy. And then while those 2 are selected, I'm just going to use my Shift key and an arrow button down, and that will create a bigger gap for me. So I don't want these touching, but they can be close together. They just need to all fit on the page. So I'm going to select all 4 of these, and I'm going to, let's see, I need to move. my little zoom toolbar. Okay, so now I'm going to choose center to page up on the quick access toolbar. With all those selected, that'll just center them for me. And it looks like they are. All right, so now I'm going to recolor these just with a light blue. You don't have to do this, but I like to have it look like the color I'm going to use for the paper. So I've just recolored those blue up here in the fill quick access. All right, so now I need to draw some flat rectangles for my sentiment. So I'll go back over here to my drawing tools on the left, choose the rectangle tool, and I will click and drag a rectangle. And this one, again, I'll keep it unlocked up here in the scale. I want it, again, to be 4 inches wide. And this one, I just want 0.5 inches high. All right, and then I'm going to go over to my replicate panel over on the right-hand side of my screen. Just drag this over here for a minute so you can see. I'm going to choose a column of 4. I want 4 of these total. And again, I want this same light blue color. So I'm going to just select them and hold my Control or Command key and click on a color that I want to borrow that color from. And so that I've quickly just chosen the same color. It's kind of like an eyedropper tool. If you're in Basic Edition, it'll only copy the color, and then the Control and click for eyedropper or for copy properties is an upgrade, but we're not going to talk about that right now. This time I just want the color. And so we're good on that. Okay, close my replicate panel. And now I want to go to my library, and I'm going to choose these designs. So if you need to know the design numbers I'm using, they are number 67187 and 334152. But in my search bar, I can just start typing the name of the design. So this is going to be floral border. And there it is, floral border sketch. So double click to open. And that's the first design I want. And I'm going to grab a corner handle and just resize this so it's about 4.5 inches tall. And we'll fine tune that later. But for now, about 4.5 inches tall is good. And then we'll go back to the library and get these other shapes. I've put these in my favorites also. So I'm just going to go to my favorites folder and see if I can find it. I think it's covered by my little zoom screen again. So this is sketched florals. There we go. Start typing it and there it is. So double click to open that one also. And so I've got these other sketch shapes. So these are specifically created, these designs are specifically for sketch pens. And I just think they're really fun to use. You would not want to cut these as they are with a blade that would just shred up your paper. So these are meant for sketching with a pen. I'm going to go ahead and ungroup these here at the top. Ungroup selected shapes. And again, I want to put these over my paper and drag the corner handle so they're each about 4.5 inches tall. Just take each one individually. And if you accidentally grab the blue underneath, just hit undo and make sure that your mouse is on kind of a more dense part of the design, and you should not have too much trouble grabbing the sketch design. All right, for this leaf, I'm actually going to make a copy. So again, Control or Command and arrow key. And I'm going to make one smaller than the other, and I'll make this one, drag the little green circle at the top to rotate it. So I'll make one a little bit more up and down and another one next to it. And again, I don't want it to be more than about 4.5 inches tall. Oops, grab the corner handle to resize that. So I'll select these together and bring them over to a little blue rounded rectangle. Okay, so we've got our sketch designs on each of these rectangle panels. And now, because I'm going to be using cut by line color or sketch by line color later on, I want these to have a different line color. The sketch designs need a different line color than these rectangles that are going to be cut. So I'm going to hold my Shift key while I click on each of these designs. And again, try and click on a more dense part of the design, so you're clicking on the sketch design and not on the blue background behind it. Okay, so I can see with my little borders here that I've got those selected. So I'm going to go up to my line color up here on the left, and I'm just going to choose black. So now all my sketch designs have a black line color. And while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and group these two small leaves together. Oops. Group these two leaves together up here on the top, or you could hit Control or Command G to group. That way they'll move together when I need them to. All right, so we've got our sketch designs. Now we're going to make some text for our little strips of paper here. So on the left-hand side, click on your text tool, and then you can just click down anywhere on the page. I'm going to type out "Happy Birthday." And this one, I'm going to change the font. I'm going to click away and then click once, and now it's easy to change the font. I'm going to open my font, my text style panel over here on the right. Drag that over so we can see it. And the name of this one is Aunt Jana Sketch. So I have a regular Aunt Jana and I've got an Aunt Jana Sketch. I want the Aunt Jana Sketch, and I want to change the point size to 18 point. And this font is number 12912. So you can buy that in the design store. It's actually free. All of these 3 designs I'm using are free right now. Silhouette has made those available. So if you haven't gotten it already, you can go ahead and grab that. You might not be able to install the font right now as we're working. Usually a font installation requires you to shut Studio down and open it again. So let's go ahead. We'll close the text style panel. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Okay, so now I've got this text, and I'm going to go ahead and make copies of this. So again, hold my Control key or Command on a Mac and arrow key down, and that's going to make copies of these. Now these are each, you can edit each of these. So we'll just double click on the next one down and just backspace to delete what's there. And I'm going to type in some more sentiments. So I'll do hello, and I'll do congratulations. You could do whatever you want. I'm just doing these sentiments. Do we have a question?
Font name again?
The font name is Aunt Jana Sketch. And it's number 12912 in the design store. This is one of my favorite ones. It's one of the oldest sketch fonts, but I still love it. Okay, so I've got these sentiments written, typed out, and now I'm just going to put them each, kind of center them each in their own little rectangle. Now you might notice I've got some little blue lines that show up as I'm moving this around. This is really nice for getting your text centered in an object. Those are snap, oh, what are they called? Now I can't remember what they're called. Snap guides, I think. Snap lines. So I'm just trying to, it may not work for moving these up and down because your text box, you can see, while it's still editable, it's not necessarily the same space above and below. But if you're trying to center left and right, it does work well. All right, so I'm just going to spend a second to get these aligned. The other thing you can do is just go up here to Align and choose Align Center. And that's going to center everything for you. So then you're just kind of looking visually up and down. And you can use your arrow keys to nudge and make those just look visually balanced. Okay, now I just need to select that text, and I'm going to change it to the same black line color. So I just want the text selected. My easiest way to do that is select it all together. Then I'm going to hold my Shift key and click on these rectangles to deselect them, and all I'm left with is the text. That's just the fastest way instead of trying to grab those colors into those tiny lines individually. So back to a black line color up here with your line options in the quick access toolbar. And now I'm going to group each one of those individually. So I'm going to do the shortcut of Control or Command G as I've got each of these selected. Okay, so those are grouped. And let's go ahead and temporarily move these over just to make sure that it's going to look good with that size of sketch design. So you can put these with whichever card you want. These are good to mix and match. And that looks pretty good. I'm just looking for a little bit of the design to peek out underneath, and that looks good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and move those back out of the way so we can just deal with our first set of designs we're going to sketch and cut. And since I like where these are at, I'm going to go ahead and group each of these. I might nudge this one over a little to the left with my arrow key so it looks a little more balanced. And that one too, just a little bit. Okay, so those are all grouped. And the reason we can do this, even though we're going to be sketching and cutting, is because we're going to be cutting by line color. So it doesn't matter if they're grouped, we'll still be able to send different commands to the machine to either sketch or cut just based on the line color. So we will go over to the Send tab, upper right-hand corner. And we're going to choose the line option. So this is called cut by line color or sketch by line color. And then the next thing we need to do is actually get our sketch pen loaded into the machine, because that's going to change our options over here. Right now it has the auto blade loaded and it's detecting that it needs to cut. And so we want to put the sketch pen in there, and that's going to change that option to sketch. So let's see, we will stop the screen share. This will be just for a second. So let me move some of these. As I mentioned, we're using the sketch pen, and in the Cameo 4 and Portrait 3, you do need this adapter. And if you're using an older machine, then you don't need the adapter. But this has an auto detect function, which makes it really nice on these newer machines. And so I'm going to come over here and take out my auto blade. We don't need that for right now. We'll use it in a minute. And we'll just insert the sketch pen into the left tool holder. Okay, and so that is actually, because it's got the automatic detection, it's going to change that in my software. Oh, one more thing. We may as well go ahead and load our paper while I'm not screen sharing. So I've got kind of a light blue color. And we'll just load it onto the mat the same way as it shows on the screen, upper left-hand corner. And align the left edge of the mat with this loading guide. And press the load arrow. All right, so that is ready to go. As soon as I get my software going, go back to screen share. Okay. So now we are going to sketch and not cut. So what I'm going to do is uncheck my red line color. We're going to save the red for cutting. So the only thing I want checked is this black box, and you can see that that has turned black. That is the only action it's going to perform. That's in bold. And you can see over here, and if you're not using a Cameo 4 or Portrait 3 with the auto tool detection, you want to make sure that your action shows sketch and that you've got a sketch pen icon for your tool. And I'm going to go ahead and change this material to my favorite, just textured cardstock. And when you are sketching, you can actually crank the speed up all the way. And on the Cameo 4, I can go speed all the way to 30. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I don't cut that fast, but I do sketch that fast. So my material is textured cardstock. My action should show sketch, and my tool should show pen. And force 7 is good and speed 30 is good. And so we will go ahead and I'll stop sharing, and then I'll just show you right here. Click send. And that's going to go ahead and sketch those designs. So while that is sketching, I'm going to go ahead and talk just a second. Michael's asked that I cover just a little bit about starting Silhouette, or using Silhouette for starting a craft business or using it in your business. So one of the things that I really like is that you can do print and cuts, and you can do sketching. So with those options, you can do little inserts for things that you ship. So labels, little sticker labels on inside or outside of your products or packaging. It's great. You can make little cards to stick in. I really think it's fun to get a package from somebody that does handmade stuff, and you get little customized goodies inside. It doesn't take a lot of effort, but doing little cards or labels is a nice thing you can use your Silhouette machine for. One other thing you want to keep in mind when you are trying to make a business with your Silhouette or anything really is you really should pay attention to your photography. Light and bright is the key. So if you are able to invest in a nice camera, that's makes a big difference in how your photos look. If you invest in a nice camera, it's sometimes worthwhile to take a class on how to use it if you're trying to get those manual functions. And then but cameras these days on your phones are actually really good, and you can use filters to make your photos light and bright. I've got a favorite app. It's called A Color Story, where you can choose different filters for your photos. But you just really want your photos to look professional if you're doing a business. And so light and bright and not a busy background. So you can do an overhead shot, has become really popular, where you can just lay things out and get a nice photo that way. Or you can just make sure if you're setting it up that things behind you are not busy, and it's nice to be able to blur out the background if you have busy for some reason. And then my other tip would just be make sure you're active on social media. You would want to get involved in like groups in Facebook so people can see what you're making, your products. You may not want to sell, push sales on groups that aren't your own, but if you're involved and people like what you're making, they're going to look for you and find your shop, and that's where you can do your selling. So those are just a couple of my ideas for using Silhouette if you're doing a business. While that's still sketching, we could talk briefly about these sketch pen adapters. So these tool holders can take a regular pen. So this is, let's see, it's a Pentel Sparkle Pop. It is really, really glittery and fun. And so if you just take a regular pen, your favorite pen, these adapters, these pen holder adapters, have different sizes of collars. So you've got a medium, a small, and a large. And so it just on the thickness of your pen, you would choose the right collar for that. Most of the time I'm using the white, which is a medium. So just screw that most of the way in there, and then you just insert your pen. And what you want is for the tip of the pen to be at this level of the cap. So leave it loose so it can move a little bit in and out. And then you just put your cap on, and if it pushes it out, then that's getting it the right height. And then you just twist it in to make it tight. So then the pen no longer moves in and out. And so then, instead of using a Silhouette sketch pen, this actually goes into your carriage. It gets locked in place instead of a pen. And with the Cameo 4, you can only sketch in the left carriage. The Cameo 3 and the Curio are the only machines right now that Silhouette has that you can use sketching in both carriages. But for the Cameo 4, you just treat it the same as you would any older machine or portrait machines. You just use that one tool holder for sketching. So hopefully that answers, and again, these are basically the same. The older sketch pen adapters are completely round, and then the ones for the Cameo 4 and Portrait 3 have this new shape and the auto tool detection. Do we have any questions on that? How do you avoid drag lines? Okay, so if you have, so you can decrease your force is one main way to do it. I found that a force of 7 is pretty good. It used to do a force of maybe 18, I think, was the original default. But if you're doing your force of 7, you can do your force as light as possible and still have it sketch. You can find that happy medium. The other thing you need to make sure is that your mat is flat, that you don't have, so it's not falling off. Like if you have your machine on the front of a desk and your mat is falling down, it might lift that top edge. So if your mat is flat, I don't have one with me, but I've even stuck a vinyl roll underneath my mat that'll just kind of roll with the mat as it's moving in and out. So those are my 2 tips to avoid those drag lines, is decrease your force and make sure that your mat is as flat as possible. Okay, so that is done sketching. We do not want to unload this. So leave it where it's at, and we're gonna switch we're gonna take out our sketch pen, and we will put the blade back in the left-hand side. And with the Cameo 4 and a Portrait 3, that's gonna auto-detect change. And then if you are using an older machine, you just need to make sure that you're switching to cut instead of sketch. So I will go ahead and share my screen again. Okay, so that has now auto-detected over here. My action is showing cut. That's what I want. I'm gonna uncheck the black box, and I'm gonna check the red box, because now I want to cut. And you can see that it's not going to do anything with the black this time. It's only going to focus and do the job with the red. And I'm going to change my material again to cardstock textured. Now you would do a test cut and just use whatever your settings are that are appropriate for the paper that you're cutting. It doesn't matter so much on the sketch pens, but when you're cutting, you want to make sure your settings are right. And just based on my practice cuts, I'm going to bump the blade up to 4 and leave my force at 30 and leave my speed at 4. And so that's showing the right material, the right action for cut, and it's got my blade. And so that is ready to send. And so that'll cut for just a second, and then we will cut those little sentiments. So I'll kind of go through that quickly again. It's just going to, we'll do the sketch and then we'll cut. Let's see, do we have any questions? Okay, just going over my notes, make sure that I am not missing anything. Almost done. Okay, so I'm going to unload that. I can check my paper real quick and see that that's going to come off well. I'm going to flip my mat over. I always find it easier to pull the mat away from the paper so it doesn't curl. Now I've got these cute little card fronts ready. And this time I'm just going to use a half sheet. You can still use a full sheet, but I don't need very much paper for those little rectangle sentiments. And switch again. I always sketch before I cut just to make sure that the cutting doesn't allow it to shift while it's sketching. So I always sketch before I cut. And I'm going to scribble, make sure that my ink is flowing on an area I know it's not going to cut. Okay, so I've got that ready. Then we'll go ahead and get this set up again to sketch those sentiments. All right, I'll go back to my design page. And I'm just going to drag these off to the side. I don't need them right now. Put these over here. And I am going to change my page size so I know I don't cut in a wrong spot. Still 8.5 inches wide, but it's a half sheet. So I'm going 5.5 inches tall. Just going to move these kind of on the lower half. I know I made that scribble mark, so I don't want to get in the way of that. Okay, back to the send panel. Uncheck the red, do check the black. Materials right, action is going to be sketching with the pen, and it kept my speed setting, so that's good. I'll go ahead and click send. It's fun watching the machine work, but we're almost ready to go onto coloring and applying little embellishments. That's a fun part of card making. I really do love sketch fonts. If you're looking for a font in the design store that is a single stroke that works for sketching, you can just type in sketch fonts in your search tab in the design store, or you can choose a filter for fonts on the left-hand side and then type in sketch fonts. Okay, so we've got the sentiments sketched. Got to switch out my pen for my blade, and you'll see that adjust over here. Just takes a second. There we go. Now it says auto detected and cut. So I'm going to uncheck the black and check the red and go ahead and click send. And while that's cutting, oh, it's almost done. You could take your darker paper color, and I have just cut that, just taken a letter size sheet and cut it in half. so it's ready to be your base of your card. So cut it in half, then fold it in half. And if you don't have a bone folder, you don't want to use your fingers, I just use my scraper tool to make a nice sharp crease on those. And we probably won't decorate all of these. We won't assemble all 4 of them, but get a couple of those ready. All right, so now we're just going to take our watercolor pencils and just do a little bit of coloring. So you can choose whatever colors you want. I'm just going to kind of start scribbling a little bit of dark in the centers, a darker blue in the center of these flowers. Just really quick, and then I'll do a lighter blue. You don't have to fill in the whole thing because we're going to be using a little bit of water to blend these. And let's see, we'll do blue on these. Maybe we'll add a little bit of green also. So not filling in completely, just kind of adding a little scribble to each one. And we'll add some green. And we'll rely on the water to do the blending for us. And trust me, it does not take much artistic ability on this. I'm just doing a little bit of scribbling and mixing up colors. So these sketch designs are going to end up looking really more artistic than the effort it takes, because you let the machine do all the work with the cute design. Some more scribbling. And we'll add a little bit light green to this one. And if they look, they do, I just do it a little different every time. It doesn't matter. Just want a little of a couple colors in each of these spots. And let's see, I haven't used that green, so I'll just add a touch of this 3rd green I picked out. All right, so paintbrush and water, or a water brush. Just gonna get that water flowing. And then you just, as long as you've got a wet brush, I'm just dabbing that on there and just kind of smearing those colors together.
Someone asked about that sketch pen being waterproof because you're water.
Oh yeah, the especially the black sketch pen, I have found it to be pretty waterproof. I've also used the glitter black. It did not seem to be quite as waterproof as the regular black. So definitely the black sketch pen does not seem to smear. That's a great question. Thanks for asking that. Any other questions? And I'm just getting the extra green off as I move to blue, dabbing it on my finger. If I had a paper towel, I should probably use that, but we're going quick. I love the watercolor look with the sketch pens together. And it's so easy. It really, you could do, we're taking an hour to do 4 cards to have at the ready, but it wouldn't take much longer to do a lot more cards than that, just in one sitting. Just make a little batch production here. Let's see. Not much artistic skill involved, but people will think with the handmade cards you give them that you're amazing. There we go. I think that looks about right. Okay, so now we'll pick one of these cards. I think I'll do my flowers. This is my favorite. So we're just going to center that on the card front. And this one I'm going to do flat. Just put the adhesive straight on there. I like these kind of dry adhesive runners for cards, just because wet glue can sometimes make it curl. If I'm doing cards, I like this. I like an adhesive runner. Okay, so that's on there, and we'll do one more. Okay, so now we just pick a sentiment, and we're going to put a little bit of string on it. Just tie a little bow. So this is, I've cut this to about 9 inches, 8 or 9 inches, seems about right. And I'm just going to wrap it a couple times. And then tie a bow. I can go a little slower when I'm at home and get my face in there, but we'll try and do this on camera. And you can always make it longer and trim it down later if you need to. All right, so that's good enough. And I'll just trim down the ends a little bit. And I'll use some just foam adhesive on the back. To make that stand out off of the page, off of the card. And you're just lining up your left and right edges and make it look good. Stick that on there. And then we'll grab some rhinestones. I think I want my flower centers to be this clear color. Don't want to come apart. Got something else. These rhinestones used to come in long strips, all attached. So, and sometimes they come individually. So if they come in strips, just slice them apart. All right, center that and stick it on there. And we'll just add a couple little smaller ones. 2 or 3, just to make it look pretty. Oh, one of those didn't get the adhesive on there. So there's one of those cards. And if you want to do just whatever looks good, do a second card. And again, with the tying, how are we on time? All right. So you saw that process. You don't have to do the all of it every time, but it's kind of fun to have that finished set. And on this biggest one, I didn't add any, or this one with the 2 leaves, I didn't add any flower or any rhinestones. So just whatever you like, whatever looks good for you. Do we have any other questions? Okay. Well, hopefully that was fun for you. It was fun for me. And don't be afraid of sketch pens, trying something new if you haven't. And I hope you join us again for another Zoom class. And we will see you again.